Oh, hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. What a wonderful day it is. It is Tuesday, January 4th, 2010. It's Day 9 Daily number 233. The game that we are going to do tonight is White Ra against the Little One. Interestingly enough, I watched this game live as it happened earlier today. This game is fresh off the Starcraft 2 press. And a number of other awesome commentators were watching as well. In particular, Husky Starcraft was watching, and he wanted to do this game as well. So, as usual, I'm going to be doing a huge analysis of this game. It was really weird, a lot of crazy stuff happening on the Day 9 Daily, where, of course, we learn to be a better gamer. And Husky Starcraft will be doing his usual enthusiastic shoutcasting. So, if you would like the shoutcast of this game, definitely go check it out at youtube.com/Husky Starcraft. Should be up there right now. Or if you want to learn what made this game so kick-ass and how you can do it too, stay here. Who'd have thought? In exciting news, we have a very nice script created by one of the wonderful admins, volunteer admins, Markio, who can now do live polling of the crowd. So for instance, if I said, hey dear live viewers, what is your favorite word, foot or kiwi, they can now tell us. So if you want to just type that in the chat, whether you like foot or kiwi more, Marky's program can actually find out for you. So this is cool because we can do a lot more interactivity in the midst of the live cast, which is awesome. So we're going to do more awesome things in the future. Until then, I'll just find out if you like foot or kiwi more because I make use of new technology. There was one more thing. What could it be? Oh my goodness, that's right. For the next 2 months, we're going to be having the HyperX community pages Pro for a Day contest. Now, how does this work? Well, you, dear viewer, have a chance to win a day with me and In Control. Almost too much nerdiness to handle. You'll get to hang out with us at the Penny Arcade Expo. Ooh, how does it work? So, what you do is you go to Kingston's Facebook page, which of course you can see is at facebook.com/HyperXCommunity. And you will end up on this general page. And there you will submit things based upon a contest. And the winner of each little contest will win special prizes. And the grand winner, of course, gets a day with me and In Control. Of course, a list of tabs things on the screen. Clear that off. Cool. So this week's theme is to go to Kingston's Facebook page, again, facebook.com/HyperXCommunity, and post a Day 9 tribute. So this can be in the form of a video or a song, such as Day 9 Made Me Do It, an image, whatever, fan media. If you would like to write some fan fiction about the life of Day 9, you may do so. Just post it up on the Facebook page, and every week for the next 2 months, we'll be announcing winners and doing all sorts of good jazz on Mondays or Tuesdays every single week. Now, I want to state for the record, you guys should definitely give a lot of fun traffic to them because Kingston is, of course, supporting esports by doing all sorts of cool jazz. And most importantly, make it funny. Feel free to make fun of me, right? The funniest one is really the one that I'm going to choose, right? In particular, like, I have a chipped tooth, as you can see. Feel free to make fun of it. Feel free to just be funny. Be awesome, as I know you are. Show Kingston how kick-ass the StarCraft community can be. So once again, go check that out at facebook.com/HyperXCommunity. Make fun of Day 9 and win time to spend with me. Won't that be cool? Fantastic. In very, very, very exciting news, we're going to do this game now. We're going to go directly into The Little One against White Ra. The map is Jungle Basin, a map that a lot of people, I would say, kind of have mixed opinions on. I would generally say people like it quite a bit more than, say, Incineration Zone or Kulas Ravine. But the people, people, especially the Zergs, kind of have some issues with it. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but in particular, White Ra in the bottom right corner as the good old blue Protoss. In the top left, we have the Little One as the red Protoss. Now, there's one thing I want to stop and talk about right now. This man, the Little One. People love saying, oh, the Little One, he's so creative. He always does crazy, zany stuff. Now, let's take a moment to think about exactly what that means. I'll even lower my chair to get serious with you, to get intimate. So, often what happens when someone sits down at this new game is they have this innocence to them. They sort of go, oh, what are all the cool, fancy things that I can do? For instance, remember playing Final Fantasy VII? You were just like, oh my god, what can I link my materia with? And you'd go to your friends, and you'd be like, oh yeah, I have the counter 4X materia. I'm so cool. I'm like 12 in the story. Like, yeah, like being a total baller. That's the sort of stuff that's so great right when you first play the game, is the possibilities. But then what happens? People get better and better and better, and standards arise. People begin to figure out what the norms are. People begin to learn that, no, you really just can't go mass Raven every single game because it's cool. You'll end up dying. And that can at first be a little bit saddening, right? You get the sort of feeling, oh, my possibilities are being swept away. But of course, you start to enjoy the subtleties in all the strategies that are effective. And then you can start winning, and you can start to feel improvement. And then that rush of joy happens. But there's this problem that not a lot of people talk about, which is when you get to the point where your head gets stuck in these standards. So for instance, Terran vs. Protoss, what do you normally see out of Terrans? Little ones playing Terran in this game. What would you ordinarily see? Marauder, Viking. That's pretty typical. Player like Nama incorporates a couple more tanks in there, but still mainly Vikings and Marauders. Cool. And what happens is you get this player who once upon a time was a creative, new, fresh face. He's learned all these strategies. He knows that Marauder Viking is the core composition. And when he sees someone do something else differently, he'll do the following incorrect thing. He'll go, that is bad because that is not what I normally see. That is not Marauder Viking. That's the only justification that they'll have. That's not Marauder Viking, therefore it is bad. No. It could be very, very good. There could be a number of reasons why it is extremely effective. But you have to take off that cap of standards. You have to examine things, break free from all that orthodoxy. So what we're going to try to do today is we're just going to talk about what is good and bad of what the little one is doing, throwing all these assumptions out the window, and in particular, pointing out oftentimes how assumptions can end up breaking your ability to think properly about the game. Always want to do a lot of refining, a lot of saying, I am going to go Marine, Marauder, Viking 100 games in a row, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. That's fine to do that a lot, but every now and again, it is critical that you check out a game like this where something zany happens and really dig deep. Partially wish my voice didn't crack on the deep. That would have made it a lot more powerful and meaningful. However, it's important that you know how nervous and exciting this game is making me. Alright, so typical opening begins. White Raw scouts with a probe. We do see that Little One is going ahead and building his refinery. And, of course, since I was playing 4v4s last night, in my gameplay menu, I have the all-unit status bar selected. So we're just going to go ahead and remove that, just for clarity's sake. For micro purposes, I actually generally do have all the health bars on, as does the little one if you watch his stream. So what we're going to see is the normal opening, right? We see, okay, it looks like some gas is getting mined. Looks like our barracks is getting close to finished. Meanwhile, in White Raw's base, we see gateway gas. That is fairly typical. Okay, now, what I want to illustrate, though, is that you don't necessarily... you already don't want to have assumptions sort of polluting your play. People will see, all right, yeah, barracks, gas, orbital command. Throwing all our assumptions out the window, the reason that this build works very nicely, we can get our orbital command relatively quickly. We can begin getting gas because right when this tech lab finishes, we'll have around 75 minerals with which to do useful things, such as get a Marauder and concussive shell, right? Now, as silly as this sounds, how many of you do go 12 barracks, 13 refinery, just because you saw it in a game, and it kind of works, and you don't really know why? Well, here we just saw a reason. We get the orbital command kind of fast, and also we have enough gas to get a Marauder and concussive shell. Hey, that sort of makes sense. A lot of times what happens is a player incidentally notices that he has enough gas for a Marauder and enough gas for concussive shell, and he goes, all right, cool, I guess I'll get them. I guess that's my build now. But you want to be able to say something like, I'm delaying gas because you know what? I just don't need that concussive shell. I just need the Marauder. Hey, interesting. Now I could do something like go 12 barracks and then gas on 15, gas on 16. This is real simple. Don't worry. It's not going to be stopping every 2 seconds to gripe on everything that everyone's seen. And here we have the surround. But of course, White Raw is awesome when he manages to get back to base and click that through. Cybernetics core going down for White Raw. Let's pick things up a little bit, shall we? Looks like we have the Marauder coming out right now, and he's saving up and getting the Stim upgrade. This is becoming a slightly more popular opening in Terran vs. Protoss, where you get around 4 Marauders, and you go ahead and push with Stim, and you use the speed of the Marauders as opposed to the concussive shells to pick off all their ranged units, and then try to micro against the Zealots. So you end up with a lot of ultra low health Marauders in their base. The first player we saw do this a lot was Phoenix, the Peruvian player. Very, very strong player. Actually, one of my favorites to watch. So what are we seeing White Rod do? We are seeing him Chrono Boost Stalkers. He has a Zealot out already. Little One doesn't know that there's a second Zealot coming. But you know what? Little One also sees that there's no gas guys are coming. Generally, you're going to assume an early expansion. Occasionally, you will assume something along the lines of a very fast Robo Bay, then an expansion. You don't actually need 2 gas to get 1 Robo and then an Immortal. You only need 1. So Little One's going to begin pushing. And already, here's one of my favorite aspects of good players playing. They do the usual build, but then they do something a little subtle. They do something a little extra with their units. So anyone at home could begin making Marauders, and get the Stim upgrade. You obviously want to wait till this is done, so what does the Little One do? Well, while he's waiting for Stim to finish, he's just going to go here and attack these backdoor destructible rocks. He's going to really begin whittling the health away on those. Very, very, very smart. And in fact, I extend the same little bit of logic to all of you, as my camera decides to run away from me. The same bit of logic applies for all races. If you're a Zerg or you're a Terran, you can easily say to yourself, these units are things I always have at the, X minute mark. I'll always have maybe 3 roaches when I'm at the 8-minute mark. Can I do something useful with those 3 roaches? Well, normally I build them just so I don't die, but hey, he's not attacking me. Maybe I can go kill these destructible rocks. Maybe I can scout the edges of the map to see if he's hiding some sort of structure. All these sorts of little things are what the top players do to separate themselves from your generally very high diamond player. So we are seeing an early expand go down by White Raw. Fantastic, right? Now, forget the fact that we're watching White Load Raw. By the way, I hate that. White Raw, who goes by Duck Load Raw, makes me all the time in professional cast settings call him White Load Raw. All right, fantastic. Thanks a lot. Well, Duck Load's not a lot better. Thank you, dearest White Raw, for ruining my life. Forget that White Raw is playing. Forget that White Load is playing as well. And forget that the Little One is playing. We're watching a Terran and a Protoss play. What are the capabilities of these races? What do I think that each race is good or bad at? If I saw someone expanding just like this, I would be totally fine with it. I would absolutely love this. Protoss player getting 3 warp gates, and then a Robo after early expanding himself. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Seems good. Now let's focus briefly on this little push. This is just the tactic of the push. Here comes the Stim. And so he can do a little bit of micro, and then he is going to run up here. Now notice how low the health is going to be getting on these. Little One utilizes some very nice micro, picks off the sentry. And these Marauders are actually going to stay very, very low on health, and that's normal. Generally, you don't want to over-stim. With this little early push, you do. Because note for the record that we've picked off 2 Zealots, a Stalker, and a Sentry with 4 Marauders. Just a little tactic. That's why we like it quite a bit. Now, I'm going to stop for a minute. With our usual early expand build, Terran buddies, I have this question for you. When you normally early expand against a Protoss, what do? How do you make sure that you stay alive? What most Terran players do is they get a lot of barracks units. They'll be going 3, 4, 5 barracks, something along those lines. But interestingly, the Little One is not doing that, right? He is getting a factory. He's getting a fast factory. We'll come back to re-examine it in a moment. And of course, look at this, continuing to micro himself around, stimming. Gosh, that's a really low health Marauder. He doesn't have concussive shell yet at all. And even yet still notice that he's rallying units so he can continue to pick off these destructible rocks. Very good, doing something a little bit extra. And now he's maneuvering around here, really low health. And here is a characteristic of the absolute highest levels of play, is the player who cares deeply for the well-being of all of his units. Look at this. This Marauder is still alive and managed to pick off an additional probe or 2 in its dying moments. Always good. You don't have to do that if you're, a newer player. Not essential in the slightest, but just wanted to point that out because it is, of course, true. Little One's expansions is up. pulling back for the moment. Now, I'm starting to see why Little One would perhaps be going for a factory instead of a barracks. First of all, it's okay not to go for barracks openings, because if we've seen ourselves do a lot of damage to Protoss, we know if we can get away with this factory. Suppose that the Little One moved up here into White Ra's base. Assume he moved up in here into Protoss's base and saw 4 warp gates and no expansion. In other words, suppose he saw a big attack coming, he could easily just build a bunch of barracks for defense. But instead, what does he see? He sees a Protoss who is in a defensive mode, defending these expansions. So Little One is just going to take the opportunity to be offensive. So we see the Blue Flame Hellion upgrade going down. We see a Medevac going down. So he's obviously going to be doing Blue Flame Hellion drops. Let's recap real fast what we've seen Little One do so far. We saw him go for a fast Marauder push with Stim, then early expand, and now he's going for Blue Flame Hellion drop. When you see this, it's so important that you don't just go, I'm going to do it too, and just blindly follow this as though it is a build order. As though build orders are religious texts that are immutable, that you cannot ever adjust or interpret or stylize in any way. No, like, they are just, they're options, they're choices, there's decisions, there's ways you can branch, and a lot of things that are active decisions, not just blind followings by the Little One. So here I am looking at this Blue Flame Hellion drop, and I'm not passively thinking, oh, I guess he's just going Blue Flame Hellions afterwards. No. Protoss is clearly defensive. Protoss clearly can't put a lot of pressure on, so it is okay to do this sort of very aggressive move. So, of course, getting another barracks after we've opened this way makes a lot of sense. We eventually want to have a good amount of those barracks units. That seems just fine, right? Now, of course, we have the Starport going down. We have a Tech Lab add-on, Ravens. A very good transition in the early game, just getting a Raven so we can get some detection. Engineering Bay completing the wall off. Notice how defensive Little One is here. Walling off and double bunker. Why would that be the case? Well, it is because Little One is aware that normally when you early expand, you need a lot of barracks because you don't want to die. Therefore, since we don't have a lot of barracks, we still probably really need a good chunk of bunkers. Backdoor was knocked down. This is very early. Very early in the game to have this knocked down. Again, it's that little advantage that Little One did with his build. And here we see a Dark Shrine coming down. A couple more gateways, a couple more warp gates coming down. And oh, interesting. A Zealot drop is going to be moving into a Dark Templar transition. Now, again, we are being naive viewers. We are not thinking to ourselves whether or not going for DTs is good, or whether or not going for Blue Flame... Or, let me rephrase that. We're not thinking to ourselves, is going for DTs what Protosses usually do? We're not asking, is going for Blue Flame Hellions what Terrans usually do? We're just going to look at this and say, is it good or not? Does it make sense? How do we make sense out of it? We've already made a little bit of sense out of those Blue Flame Hellions, right? So we're seeing this sort of little harassment go on. Little One's going to be defending in a reasonable fashion. Now, Little One is one of the absolute best players of managing multiple points of action at the same time. So he's running his Blue Flame Hellions in here, and he's repositioning and returning his workers to mining. This is very hard to do. This will take you a while if you are a newer player. It will take you an actually extremely long time. And if you are new, I would just recommend pick one thing and go for it. Do it as best you can. Know that eventually you want to be zipping around the map, but just kind of go down here, do a little bit of damage, come back here. The important thing is that you are aware of both. Don't pick one and blindly do it, or else you will not improve at all. Now we're even seeing why this wall off is helping quite a bit more. And there's White Rot doing his good old Warp Prism harass. Alright, now, here is where the game begins to take some zany twists. Double Banshee Starport. So we have double Banshee Starport, we have 2 barracks building some infantry, we have 1 factory that appears to have made a tank. We're dealing with a little bit of damage, but we also even have our lovely Blue Flame Hellion upgrade. Protoss, I would actually say, is doing something that I would label as a little bit more standard. We see him getting Templar, we see him getting Forges for upgrades, he's making Warp Gate units, he's playing a little bit defensively. In general, Warp Gate units plus Templar, you know, it's great. Or should I say the Cybernetics Core units, the Stalker, the Sentries, and the Zealots are great in combination with High Templar and Dark Templar. Now, how many of you do this? How many of you do this sort of Dark Templar play? Often what happens is that people think that what makes something good is that it is unusual. This relates back to this assumption idea. They'll see this Dark Templar harassment and they'll say, I don't Dark Templar harass. Maybe I'll Dark Templar harass. And that's their entire chain of logic. But we want to do a little bit more. The reason the Dark Templar harass works well is because, first of all, the harassment and the pressure, like the direct damage it can do, obviously good. But also, back home, we already have a Twilight Council done. We can start getting those Zealot speed upgrades really early. Good. We can start getting the Blink upgrade really early, because again, we already have the Twilight Council. Good. We can get High Templar really easily, because we've already completed the tech tree of the Twilight Council. Great. If you are a Colossus Inc. player, don't suddenly decide that you want to go for Dark Templar. Because why devote some time going down this tech path for the Colossus and then go, oh yeah, and then I want to get Dark Templar over here. Notice that those are very different along the lines, but Dark Templar, High Templar, Gateways are all along one vein. Very, very good, very easy. But this Banshee play, and whoa, a third starport. Very, very unusual. Very, very sort of funky stuff going on. So we're going to just watch and wait and see. Think a little bit right now. Think a little bit. I'm cheating because I have an answer in mind, but I'm just going to say, think for a little bit. Yeah, there's a little bit of damage done by some more Warp Prism harass. Think why going for all these starports and even for this reactor to get double Vikings. Think about why that's a really good play. Everyone's seen these sort of Marauder drops. Those are pretty by the book. Did a little bit of damage, picked off a Zealot, yellowed up 2 of them. Great. More Gateways coming up. Perfect. Love this play. Love this play. What I am going to suggest right now is the following little bit of thinking for you. Most of how new players win, fresh off the boat, brand new, have never even really played RTS players play, the way that they all eventually do it is with a trick. Something like, if I get DTs and he doesn't have detection, I can win with DTs. That's the first way they do it. Then they get a little better and understand this build order thing. And then what people do is they have a quick and dirty easy build order. Like the 4 Warp Gate push is the pretty typical thing that a lot of new Protosses do. They say, hey, if I get 4 Warp Gates really fast and just get a lot of units really early on, I can just kill him. Yeah, how exciting, how enticing. And then the third bucket, not the fourth one, but the third bucket that a lot of people get stuck in is they have a little bit longer of a build order, but they completely stop thinking about an overall plan. These are the Terran players that watched Foxer play in the GSL, and they realize, oh my god, Marines and Medivacs work kind of well against Banelings. So what happens? They open up with this early expand, and they get a bunch of Marines and Medivacs, and they start attacking, and there's a little bit of variance, and then they just think, okay, well, I guess at this point I'll expand again. I kind of have money left over. Oh, I guess at this point my gas is getting kind of high. Maybe I should upgrade. It's like things occur to them in the later parts of the game, but they kind of have this theme that they're like sticking to. But it's the fourth bucket, which is having a game plan of this is how I want to win. Example, a Zerg player against a Terran player could say something like, I want to make sure he never gets this gold expansion on this side of the map. That's how I'm going to win. I'm going to starve my Terran opponent to death. That is my general goal. How do I best accomplish that? Not a complicated goal, but a goal, a general theme plan. Almost always when you watch the little one play, that is what really sets him apart from other players. He'll do things like get 50 tanks, and you'll be thinking, oh, maybe I should do a tank sort of play. But then you're realizing, oh no, it's because on Lost Temple, he can put all his tanks here, and he's focusing on getting all these expansions and winning late game by denying his opponent getting the island. You know, it's kind of this, whoa, sort of huge thing. So whenever you watch this sort of play happen, you don't want to think, is this a good unit mix? Are these just the units that I make? You want to think, what is he going to try to accomplish with all these good things? What is he going to try to do? So we're going to see him begin to expand to the middle portion. This is really where this plan starts to unfold. There were 2 little goofy tactics at the start of the game. Pretend they never even happened for the time being. How is the Little One going to accomplish things with these freshly building barracks, and in particular, these extra starports doing stuff? So it looks like he's going to begin right off the bat with doing some harassment with his Banshees. He's going to control these edge expansions. And for a Terran player to take the middle is nothing out of the ordinary, right? Nothing too crazy happening right here. We're noticing a couple of things right now. This is a substantial amount of cloaked Banshees. And we are seeing Vikings. In other words, Viking plus Raven equals dead observers, so our Banshees are going to be staying alive. So kind of at an unexpected moment, the Little One now suddenly has a fleet of units that is untouchable. All of a sudden, at this point in the game, White Raw's going, oh, I can't attack for 1 or 2 minutes because I just need observers. Not a huge deal, right? It's just, okay, I can't attack. It's not like the Banshees will kill me. I'll probably have some observers defensively, but I need to get some more observers out, right? So cool. Simple way to state it, if we start getting a good amount of Banshees and Vikings, it buys us a teensy window of time. Teensy window of time to get this orbital command built into a planetary fortress. If you were just going Marine Marauder, Viking, when you take a planetary fortress, how do you have to defend it? By having a fuck ton of Marines and Marauders and Vikings. Yeah, that's fine. There's nothing exactly wrong with that. But again, notice, if he has Ravens and Vikings, this buys me time because Protoss needs to get more observers out. Same thing with Dark Templar. Dark Templaring players do this all the time. If I get Dark Templar out, you need to wait till you have a Raven to do anything to me. So White Raw, yes, going for all the good gateway unit mixes. Like a good Protoss, he's expanding along this side base because, hell, if my back door is busted open, I may as well just expand here, because getting an expansion is good, and blocking off my back door is good, and having a nice little link up between my bases is good. So now we are seeing another orbital command get built. Cool. And pretty soon, like probably right about now, suddenly the window that the Little One had is gone. There's an observer with an army, but the planetary fortress is done. Great. Little One going to try to do some harassment tactics. That's fine. That's fine. That's good. And here is a little bit of damage going down. Oh, we have some feedbacks going on. Oh my goodness. You know what? If there weren't a planetary fortress here, Little One might be in trouble. But you know what? There's a motherfucking planetary fortress here. So he's going to be fine. He's going to be in absolutely good shape. And you're even seeing that as the Little One gets a little bit farther away from his planetary fortress, oh my goodness, we start to have some problems, right? So, okay, cool. Right, this, we're starting to see, wow, yeah, the Banshees are, in a general sense, in an army mix, the Banshees and the Vikings are okay-ish, but it's that's the first thing I want to note about this big air play. It bought us a little bit of time to get this planetary fortress up. So now I'm going to pause, and we're going to do a little bit of a quiz, dearest viewership, right? We're going to do a little bit of your turn to think. I want you to think. What would be a good overall game plan? A good overall game plan for Little One. Could be something like, I want to starve my opponent and take all the expansions on the map. It could be something like, I want to win by constantly pushing this front. It could be, I want to win by doing an attack over here with drops and then doing an attack over here with drops and bouncing back and forth between the two. Think. What would be your plan? You have this center planetary fortress. There's another command center going down here. Where could that be going? With this mix of things. Ooh, we even have some tanks coming out. Is he getting siege mode? Well, it doesn't quite look like it yet. Okay, we have more air coming out. What could it possibly be? All right, cool. You had a little bit of time to think. Here is a very, very, very cool little answer. I'm going to say it the long way first, and then say it the short way. Long way. Let's look at the map. If the Little One has this base, the honestly easiest expansion for him to defend is this one. This is the easiest fourth for him to take. To have those two. Because with this being a planetary fortress, and this being a planetary fortress, it's easy to bounce back and forth between these two locations. If we have both of them, we can control this Xel'Naga Watchtower. We can control this Xel'Naga Watchtower. And it cuts the map in half for Protoss. Protoss can take this expansion, or he can take this expansion. So you know what? That means that, sure, I'll have 4 bases in the game, and you'll have 4 bases in the game, but your 4 bases are really spread out. My 4 bases are not very spread out. Cool. So let's say that the really short way. Here's his general game plan. If we're going to end up with the same amount of expansions, I want the better same amount of expansions. I want the amount of expansions that screws him over. Very, very easy, right? We're going to take this expansion and this expansion. All right, cool. All right, nifty. Now we've cut Protoss in half. Now I'm starting to see why. Oh, the Banshees make a lot of sense with that because they can move all over the place really easily. They can attack here, and when that seems to not be going well, they can back on over and attack over here. Or then they can move over here and defend really well. Oh, cool. So it looks like the little one is going to be playing largely defensively and doing a lot of cool harassment type stuff. So at this point, I would think things like, oh, you know what? Getting some more siege tanks with siege mode would be quite good. Holding control of these Zelnaga watchtowers would be quite good. Rallying my Marines to a place where they won't get killed might be good. There's the command center advancing forward. There's the repair going on. Very, very cool, good stuff going on. All right, so we have this command center going down right now. Now, we're at the 17-minute, 41-second mark, and a lot of you are probably saying, okay, Day 9, I get why this expansion split is good. I can kind of see now that that is Little One's expansion, but how the hell would I see that on my own? On, I guess it was Sunday's Daily, 231, I did a technique I almost always do. I watch a replay all the way through pretty damn fast. Why do I do this? Because it gives me a good overarching sense of what's going on. Have you ever watched a 45-minute game on ×4 or ×8? You'll notice that there's probably one spot on the map where like 7 attacks happen. You'll probably notice there's one expansion on the map where both players are really, really struggling with one another over. Like on Metalopolis, the center gold expansions. People are really, really, really struggling all the time of who ends up controlling those two. It's not complicated. If you watch a game really quickly all the way through, you get a general sense of what's happening. Now, for instance, I'm actually going to reveal the time. Well, actually, no, I won't. I'll just say that this game is not over by any means. But if you were to watch this game at ×8, you would kind of end up seeing that there was that theme of Little One splitting the map in half and abusing that. And look how defensively he's playing. Oh, is there going to be another planetary fortress here? You betcha. There's even bunkers going down. Does he have siege mode yet? No, it doesn't quite look like he's invested in that yet, but you know what? A lot of Banshees, getting some Marines. Does he have the upgrades? Yep, he has some of the essentials. We see a little bit of harassment going on by the Little One. And already we're starting to notice the effects of this. Look, some units getting warped in here. Well, looks like, yeah, even having this small set of units here means that White Raw's army is split up. And the Little One pulls back, and immediately his army is drawn together. Now, White Raw is really not going to be happy about seeing that thing happen. That is quite terrible. There's the potential for storming going on here. Of course, that makes us a little more vulnerable for TLO, but still, on the whole, same little principle going on. So again, we're not watching this replay at a very fast speed. We are watching it pretty slowly, so that way we can get all the real good glory, all the juice out of this game that we possibly can, such as Immortals doing their own thing. But I would strongly recommend, whenever you are trying to learn, to pick a replay and blast through it really quickly and get a vague, general sense of the consistent theme you're seeing out of either player. So, White Raw moves up here, sees that this planetary fortress went down, and now White Raw's going, oh crap, a Terran on 4 bases? I better take my 4th base. Seems very reasonable by White Raw. Now, you heard me say not long ago the ways that people tend to win, and the place people stop is by kind of following a build order and then just kind of continuing to do it. And you also heard me say that the Little One has these overarching game plans that he follows. So, what does this mean for you? Well, the game plan for the Little One is that he's just thinking to himself, I'm going to stay alive, and then I'm going to try to get this 3rd base up, and then try to get this 4th base up as fast as possible. These 4 bases, getting them up and getting the center ones into 2 planetary fortresses is the main goal of the Little One. What if White Ra had expanded to the middle expansion instead of to the left one? Well, that means that the little one would then be making big attacks into the middle, because that's his goal, is to take it. That's his big overarching plan. If I can just control these two center ones, I'll be golden. It also means that if you want to steal from the little one, you can also do it, but with your style. Oh, cool. For instance, I'm a player who really does prefer the Marine Marauder Viking stuff. Wouldn't it be interesting if I took a third base kind of quickly, made it a planetary fortress, and then took a fourth base kind of quickly and made that one a planetary fortress? Maybe it might work out. Maybe I'll realize, I kind of need some more tanks in here. Or, I kind of need to do more medevacs in here. That's fine. My overarching game plan allows for big stylistic differences. Allows me to do the things that I want to do. So here we have this pretty big army moving around from the little one. A pretty big air army. And you're immediately going to see that it has a very, very potent little forcing effect on Protoss. Look at that. Picking off that, and then we have the cloaked Banshees coming in. Little bit of harassment. Little one is saying, I am going to be expanding, getting planetary fortresses. I'm going to be playing real defensive. But I'm going to be harassing with air. The air bought me time to get this. That's the first reason we like those Banshees. But now they can do a lot of harassment. Now look at how awkward this unit placement is for White Load Ra. You know what? That's just what I'm going to call him. Good old White Load. He is expanding to the right now. Good. But you know what? There is no comfortable position for any of these units. Look at these probes. Ooh, my gosh. There's even a Marauder there to do a little bit of shooting action. Okay, well, wow. Yeah, you know what? Storming here is probably our best choice, but I'm not thinking about this as a vulnerable expansion. I'm thinking mainly about this as the planetary fortress. Look at how awkward all these units are ending up being placed. Little one says, oh, I guess the right side is a little more vulnerable. I guess I'll go for that. Oh, wait, no, the right side is not so vulnerable. Here comes the army, so he's going to pull back to the center. Think if the little one just moved down here and then left again. Look at how vulnerable this whole area looks. There's all the units of White Ra are on the right side. This all relates back to that same game plan the little one had, which is, if we're both going to have 4 bases, I want the better 4 bases. So that way, you are split up. Not exactly a direct confrontation. Little one kind of poking up here, doing some damage, and then just steering right back out again. I do like this play by White Ra. Now, let's think about this. Again, your usual assumptions, the usual things that people do. Oh, Stalker, Colossus, and Zealots. Yeah! Or maybe Stalker, Colossus, Templar, or maybe all that, etc., etc., etc. There's all the ways that what you usually see. What you don't really see is this. You don't see a Protoss player suddenly get a bunch of Phoenixes when he doesn't have any Colossi. Sure, people get Phoenixes to help defend their Colossi from Vikings and that stuff, but what about Phoenixes? Why would we want Phoenixes right now? Okay, think. Because there's 2 reasons. One of which is huge, one of which is kind of middle-ish. Think, why would we be getting these Phoenixes? Why would we be getting these Phoenixes? Why? There's no Colossus to defend with them. Why would we get them? Okay, there is the little reason. The little reason is that we can kill the Banshees. We're having trouble with Banshees. What's good at killing Banshees? Phoenixes. Ta-da! Alright, I have one justification for getting Phoenixes. Not that hard. The bigger, way more important reason that a lot of people may not think about is Phoenixes are really fast and fly. If I have 2 bases at opposite ends of the frickin' screen, how great is it to have fast units that can get places quickly? Not to have these slow Immortals and Stalkers and Zealots that have to do these U-shaped patterns. Hell, the Phoenixes can be all the way over here, and then Banshees show up here, and the Phoenixes can just hightail it through the center of the map, and then pick off those Banshees. This can help deny drops. We haven't seen that many drops at this stage of the game, but anytime you are spread out, harassment is much, much scarier for you. So anytime you're more spread out, you want faster, more mobile units. That's why Zergies, who have Zerglings and Mutalisks, that's why they can get away with expanding so far away, because they have the fast units that can get there to defend it. That's why Terran and Protoss cannot expand to a lot of locations that are far, far away, because they have slow things like siege tanks that have to be still. They have things like Immortals. that, you know, the rest of their army needs to be caught up with. So yes, we have some Phoenixes moving over here. We have some Void Rays. Not as fast as Phoenixes, but you know what? Damn good because they fly. They can still use the same type of mobility. So what do we see White Raw doing? This is really the only vulnerable spot that the Little One has in the whole game. Now, I'm going to say something that seems obvious, but a lot of people just kind of don't do it. Including me when I'm feeling particularly belligerent in a game. You should attack your opponent where he's weak, not where he is strong. Great. What do a lot of people do? A lot of people go, oh my god, he has this planetary fortress with tanks and marines and banshees here. Oh my god, if he has that for a long time, that's really good for him. So I better go kill that. I better do it fast. And then they start throwing masses of units at this. This is not fallen anytime soon. But hey, look, there's almost no units here. This is actually the only real vulnerable spot that the Little One has. This expansion, really safe. This expansion, really safe. This area, a little bit less safe, but we can still always spot things swinging around with the Xel'Naga Watchtower. Not this sort of thing. Really like that quite a bit. Alright, cool. Now, wait a minute. What do I see in Our Lady of the Production tab? We see 1, 2, 3, 4 Ravens being produced. We even see the Corvid reactor. Oh, what does that do? The starting energy of Ravens by 25? I didn't know about that one. Okay, cool. That is real unusual. You probably have not seen someone suddenly go, oh, Mass Ravens. Well, you have now, but why? Why is the Mass Raven so good? If my opponent is split on two sides of the map, and I want to just bounce back and forth and hit those two bases over and over and over again, using my two planetary fortresses in the middle, air units can do that the most goodly. Air units do it best. So the the Viking Banshee, worked great. Let's throw in some Ravens. All right, see how that now seems a little bit logical? People will get so caught up saying, oh, but the Raven, it's a support unit, and I need to have an army that it can support. So, well, if I'm going Marine Marauder, Medevac, then I'm going to have my Starport making the Medevac, so I already have a good support unit. And they get caught up in all these sort of definitions of what a unit's role is supposed to be. But you know what? Ravens fly. Ravens are fast. Flying units can exploit the situation really well. So let's make some flying units. And also, we always want to think about resources. Do we have a lot of gas in this situation? Yes. We're spending mainly minerals. We're spending mainly minerals on things like these Hellions, things like these Marines. Very, very mobile army from the Little One. Hellions, Marines, air units. You know, I personally would have thought that siege tanks would have come up. Doesn't look like it. No siege tanks. Staying really, really mobile. Or I should say siege mode. He's getting siege tanks, but he's not getting siege mode. Instead, favoring these Hellions. Very mobile army. Hey, look! Remember those flying units that I said were so mobile and good at attacking? Well, they just flew on back, cleared stuff up, and went right back to it. Of course, White Raw knows that he is going to attack his opponent where he is weakest. Very, very simple idea. So, alright, here comes Little One. He's going to try to poke around here. Going to maybe try to do a little bit of damage. Look at all these flying units. Doesn't matter if the Vikings are supposed to be good against Colossi and you don't want to make them against Colossi. It doesn't matter if you think, oh yeah, Templar are the, quote, counter. He's going Phoenix and Templar. That counters these Banshees. Flying units can bounce back between faraway locations very, very quickly. And look at this. He's going to poke at this a little bit. I would not be surprised if Little One very soon decided to go, hey, let me go kill this thing. And use those same flying units. Nothing wrong with doing that. Looks like Little One is a little bit preoccupied with this. But man, look at that. 4 more Ravens coming down. That is quite unusual. This can also be part of your game plan. QXC has stated that he has game plans like this before, where he says, hey, against this Zerg player, I'm just going to try to get 7 bases up, and then I'm just going to go tank, Viking, Raven, and use the abilities of 20 Ravens to kill the Zerg off. And I'm never going to attack him no matter what. Simple game plan. Relies on these Ravens. Definitely could have been part of Little One's plan to just get those sort of Ravens. Hey, look, using fast mobile units to sort of exploit when things get caught off guard. No real direct attack from Little One. This is probably the first very direct attack that we've seen. And, oh goodness, we see a mothership coming up right now. Okay, so Why would the mothership be good? Why would it be good? Why would it be good? And the argument that it's fucking awesome is not going to fly today. Just today. Almost every other day, that's totally fine to do. But today, we want to have a reason for it. Okay, alright. Well, what are the abilities of a mothership? Cloaking. Will that help me? No, not really. There's a bunch of ravens there. It also does damage and flies, but, we're probably going to throw that out too. But in particular, it has the recall, and it has the vortex. Why would the vortex be good here? It would be great, because we have all these flying units that are darting in and trying to harass. How kick-ass is it if I can vortex them, lock them down, and then I can do some damage to it with Templar, Stalkers, Archons. Quite famously, there is a tactic called the Archon Toilet, which is where you get like 12 Archons, and when you throw a vortex down and pull their whole army in, you put your Archons in as well. And then when the vortex finishes, all their units are stacked. The Archons fire once and kill everything. Woo! We can kill a 200 army in one shot. It's really fun. The Archon Toilet. Archon Toilet. Important to learn the lexicon. So, yeah, the vortex will be useful for shutting down this huge mobility of air. And the recall works really well, because you know what? We have 2 bases on other sides of the map. Oh gosh, how am I going to deal with this? Well, fast units like the Phoenix, having Templar warped in everywhere, that's good. And having a mothership so I can recall between locations, or even recall into his base after I'm done defending. We want to get a little bit more mobility, and the mothership actually helps us do that. If we had a bunch of bases really, really tightly packed together, and our opponent was going for Marine, Marauder, Medevac, this mothership might not be the best choice. It might not actually help you in any way. Because hell, if you recall into his base, he sees it coming, sprints all his stimmed units there, kills off your recall, and then sprints right back. Or if you do the Vortex. I mean, the Marines and the Marauders are still stormable, whether they're just popping out of the Vortex or not. Of course, the Archon Toilet you can always use against any unit composition, but just wanted to point out that in this particular circumstance, this actually is looking a little bit better. Oh, and for God's sake, have all your Nexuses hotkeyed late game, because nothing hurts me more than seeing, oh look, 67 energy, maxed energy, maxed energy. Always want to be chrono boosting. So hey, you know what? He's been pounding up here in the main all the time. Alright, cool, I'm going to go somewhere else. We're starting to see that game plan come to life. I have half the bases, but my opponent has the bad half. He has the spread out half. He cannot defend as easily with his half. What the hell are these units going to do? Only the Phoenixes could really come back to try to help, but it looks like White Raw has not quite yet noticed that, or has just elected not to do that. Again, you can kind of see how the Phoenixes now are a little bit smarter of a choice. Boom Carrier, that's a pretty good unit. That will allow us to kind of bust through regions a little bit easier, but it's not going to come to life. White Raw is hacking things away here. But I mean, all these units threateningly positioned. All these other units here. Another command center going down, don't really care too much about it. Okay, so we just got done with an attack at the south end. Now let's go ahead and begin an attack at the right end, spreading our attacks out. Now, there's going to be a good amount of stuff happening, so we're more than happy to rewind this. In particular, we notice that these Ravens, they have a good amount of energy to them, and I cast the Seeker Missile, which I still call Hunter Seeker Missile. So we see some storms going down. We saw that, wow, there was a good amount of those Hunter Seeker missiles that went down. We're actually going to rewind it. We're going to select all of White Raw's ground units really fast here. So there's the Zealots, here are the Templar, and the Archons, and the Immortal. Okay, good. Speed things up till right at the moment of this battle, just so we can see the damage, because you know what? I bet a lot of you have not really seen the amount of damage that Seeker missiles can do. Look at all the health bars. These are just the ground units. Bam! Wow! A lot of Hunter Seeker missiles did a lot of damage. We're seeing, significant amounts of stuff got killed off. Banshees in a direct fight didn't really fare very well. We knew that. We already knew that Banshees were not going to fare particularly well in this direct fight. But what we did know is that air units can easily exploit bouncing around between a lot of locations. That's probably the 50th time I have said that. And people tend to, quote-unquote, know that. People will play on Scrap Station and say something like, oh yeah, duh, I want to be opening up Banshees, or duh, I want to be opening up Mutalisks. But no one will look at a map like Jungle Basin and say, if I had these 4 expansions, how would that work? Oh, you know what? Air units would be really good for abusing that. You can make things work. you can make these air units really, 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 really effective. Oh, GG. I mean, the game's not over, but I just kind of wanted to say that. So, holy crap, wow. You know what? These Marines really have not done that much this game. Those Hellions have not really done that much this game. But they are bouncing around a lot between locations. There goes down the mothership. Still cannot really directly shove the way into this base. But, ooh, gosh, some really killer storms going down there. But it looks like TheLittleOne is finally getting a chance to break in here, because you know what? He had the option to attack here, here, or here. One attack down here did a lot of damage, killed the 2 starports, kind of shut down the unit production popping out of here for a moment. And he just did enough damage that he found out he could actually kill this off. And honestly, what always makes me very excited with this sort of style of play, the way that TheLittleOne's playing, is that you're not following anyone's orders. You know what I always hated is when I, looked up a really good build order, and I did it once, and I was like, yeah, that felt great. And I do it again and again and again and again, and then I start to feel that little bit of repetition, a little bit of, oh, it's okay. And then I start to, hit a wall where I'm, losing, and I'm not doing well, and my instinct is to go, well, how am I supposed to change my build? And then when I find out how I'm supposed to change my build, I do that, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'm winning again, all right. And I start losing it. Well, how do I change my build? It's almost like the build order owns me, But when you have just this general plan where hey, I get to choose where I want to decide. I need to discover the weak point. Now your brain really starts to wake up. The game becomes more fun. You actually become a thinking, deciding player. You're not this robot who's trying to obey what you think the build order wants you to do. Should he have attacked here, or should he have backed way off and attacked here? You know what? I would have attacked here, and then built bunkers here. That's a little bit more in tune with my style. TheLittleOne was going for more direct attacks. Look at all these Ravens and all these Vikings blasting their way in. Crazy friggin' transition. You never see someone get that many Ravens. You never see that. You never see that. You never see that. But you know what? At no point in the game did we stop and say, does anyone do this? Instead, we said, why is this okay? Really, 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 really important to do every now and again. Very critical to just say, how do I refine, how do I refine, how do I refine? But look at this very, very, very good little abuse. And hey, you know what? The Vikings, we didn't even really talk about the fact that they could land. Another reason why we're happy to make Vikings. We said all these air units can maneuver around, the Banshees and the Ravens. You know what? So can the Vikings. They can maneuver to a base, land, and lift up and move off. By the way, if you could see my whole body, you would know I can do an amazing Viking impersonation. Just saying. Just saying. I don't mean with my voice. I mean a physical Viking impersonation. Easy peasy. There's the storming going on. Oh, the Vikings taking so much damage. Oh, these auto turrets. And by the way, I just want to state a couple of things that I'm sure some people don't know. Auto turrets gain a lot of benefit from upgrades at this engineering bay. See this high-sec auto tracking increases the range of them. We have the structure armor, and as we see here, it's building armor for auto turrets. So these 2 upgrades help your auto turrets. Also here, there is the durable materials, which extends the time of the auto turrets, the seeker missiles, and the point defense drone. Not a lot of people will get these upgrades. So again, when you're doing your unorthodox stuff with your Ravens, make sure you get the appropriate upgrades for those Ravens. So now, TheLittleOne is doing the very reasonable play, which is the expansion is about to fall. Continue drilling the expansion until it's dead. No reason to almost kill the expansion and then decide that you don't want to kill the expansion. White Raw trying to warp in. White Raw a little bit high on his money. Uh-oh. Could use all his max chrono boost to chrono boost these gateways. But sadly is not. Sadly, just is not. We have 1 missed rally point. I think those probes are not going to be faring too well once they enter into the wilderness. There he goes, venturing forth. A lot of probes sort of moving around here. A little bit of a misclick. And hey, whoa! Now we're starting to see the usefulness of all these air units. We just got done. Oh, that's so awesome to see. You almost never see Hunter Seeker missiles used against probes. Well, my goodness, I mean, all our focus was over on this side. And hey, look, White Raw's even now retaking this Nexus as we speak. But because the general plan of the Little One revolves around getting a lot of mobile units, and in particular getting a lot of air units, now he's throwing down an attack at the left Nexus almost 30 seconds later or less against this left base. It's so fast, this push against the left side of the map. So I think we can clearly note this is an advantage for the Little One. We see a 130 to a 51 food mix. There has really not quite been a direct battle where a big army battles against a big army, with one exception, really. It's pretty much just been harassment and being annoying. And oh, hey, look, you know what? We just got done attacking here. We just killed this off. We just did pretty much huge damage here. All right, let's go for the main. Oh, gosh, and all Protoss' units are back here. The Protoss units can't retreat. There's a friggin' planetary fortress and a planetary fortress in the way. And oh my god, those mobile units, look at how quickly they can pull back. Whoa! Isn't that amazing? Isn't that awesome? Right? Like, again, so good to take a standard build order and refine, because that's how you dig deep and elevate yourself. However, don't forget about the fact that there are logics of play and styles that you have never even considered and never explored. And whenever you see something funky, always try to make an argument for it before you try to bash it and say, oh, well, no one does that. You know what? In the early days of beta, people did not really make Marauders. That was not a really talked about unit. It was all like, oh, the Roach is really good. Oh, Roaches and the Immortals. People thought the Immortal was the most broken ass unit. Oh, they hated the Immortals. Oh, how terrible those were. People weren't talking about the Marauders. Now everyone's like, oh, Marauders. What, you're not making Marauders? You know, like there's all this sort of stuff. Don't really want to do that. Definitely don't. Because as we saw in this game, something kind of weird happened from the Little One, especially when he took that center expansion as his fourth, especially when Little One took this base. A lot of people would go, oh my god, he's getting cocky. Oh, isn't he just thinking that he's way better than White Raw? Not quite. In fact, Little One loses a lot to White Raw and has told me that he is annoyed about the times that he loses to White Raw, right? Little One knows that White Raw is a good player and is not going to mess around just for entertainment value. He had a plan that unfolded out over a long period of time. It wasn't a little build that stopped at 15 minutes. Unfolded over a very long period of time. Oh, so kick-ass. We're going to take some questions from the audience in about a minute. But I wanted to note next week's Fun Day Monday theme again. So for Fun Day Monday next week, I would like you Zerg players to submit replays to Monday at day9.tv of you only attacking your opponent via Nidus Worms. You are not allowed to walk to his base and attack him. And the additional condition that you must have 2 Nidus Worms building at the same time at least once in the game. Send those to Monday at day9.tv, and then of course, as usual on Fun Day Monday, we will check them out. So let's go ahead and mosey on over to the chat and get some investigationationing. So right here, yes. So Lucia says, Dear Day 9, you said always attack the enemy where he is weak. Why didn't TLO just crush the undefended Western expansion earlier instead of attacking the army at the Eastern expansion all game? There are a number of reasons. The first one that I want to make sure I emphasize is that this should be a stylistic choice for you. You should really, you should do Little One's way of playing and trust your instinct as to what you think would be best. I probably would have gone for the Western expansion a little bit harder. However, think of it this way. Let's say Little One has done this style so much that he saw that Eastern expansion and said, oh man, 100% chance I'm going to be able to kill that bad boy off. So he just devoted all his resources to it and made the inevitable eventually happen. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying, yeah, you know what, he's not quite going to die yet, but his grip's going to get weaker and weaker until he falls down the banana tree. It's great. That's the completely reasonable way to play. And in fact, if you think about it, that right expansion was kind of the key offense position for White Raw as well. If White Raw lost that, White was using that expansion. Let me actually show you on the map. White Raw was using this expansion to funnel units this way into the Little One's base. I mean, we even see that, like, this is a lot of gas in these geysers because these things were dying. So when this falls, This is almost a defensive action. Little One kills this off, and by virtue of it being dead, defends this location. And also defends this location a little bit better. So we can see that there's a lot of reasons to do both. West side, totally undefended. East side, very, very, very important point for White Rod to control. Not so much a really strong point. It's not that it's not like trying to run your stuff into a planetary fortress, because it's really, really good. It's that it's such an important part of the game. Almost like the gold expansions in Metalopolis. It is important that you not let him get those. Right? That's why there's so much contention over them. So, again, trust yourself. Yeah! Let's see. PX Shaman 1 says, Dear Day 9, how can a Protoss player deal with such diversity a Terran can throw at you, such as tanks, Marine Marauders, and Hellions, also with an army composition like Banshees, Marines, Marauders? So there's two ways to ask that question. If you're asking, what if an army with 10 types of units attacks me in one fell swoop? In general, you want to have some of your key units, like Templar, Immortals, or some very, very essential units in there. Colossi, I don't think are as important as those two in terms of the variety case. But in general, the way to deal with someone who's doing too much variety is just to have a lot of shit. Like, a lot of stuff. So, for instance, if I'm Terran and I'm going just Marines and Marauders, a Protoss who's trying to go Void Ray Phoenix, Colossus, Immortal, Stalker, Sentry, Zealot is probably still going to be in trouble. His variety is not what makes him good. More variety means less size of army overall, so try to counter it by trusting in the size of your macro. A lot of times if I'm against a player and I'm like, he's doing 10 different things, I'll just start trying to be more aggressive and attack him because I know he can't handle the heat. In general, though, it depends on the unit composition. The second way of asking the question is, how do I create an army so that I can deal with Marine Marauder Medevac, if that is what he so chooses to make, or deal with Banshee Viking Raven, if that's so what he chooses to make. If I go Zealot Immortal, I'll probably crush the Marines and Marauders, but then I'll lose if he's suddenly going air. And to that, I would say, it's really important to be doing not just scouting. Sure, if you get an observer into his base and you just see it, and you're just like, all right, there are Ravens. Cool, I will make Templar to feedback. What's really important is to be doing aggression back. The Warp Prism harass by White Rot was doing quite good. It wasn't just doing damage, but it was allowing him to see what his opponent was doing. It was allowing him to prevent his opponent from getting a lot of ground troops up because of all this harassment going on. Really, 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 really important. The more proactive you are about being aggressive, the fewer options your opponent actually has. That answer is way better than saying, against this mix, build those units. Against this mix, build these units. Because you can figure that all out on your own. What's really important, though, is that you maintain the aggression so you can force him down limited paths. And then you don't even have to worry about all that variety eventually. So let's see here. Someone asked a question about Zerg. There was not as much Zerg in this game, so I'm going to dodge. Cream Wolf asked a great question. I'm going to take one more, and then that's going to wrap up the daily for the day. So Cream Wolf says, Day 9, do you think the Protoss could have taken the game if he had gotten carriers to destroy the planetary fortresses? And are carriers the best option for Protosses in situations where Terran gets planetary fortresses? So, I really, really think that carriers are a good unit in general. Let me first say that. They're underused. Try using them. You'll go, oh, because you won't quite believe how much damage they do. But in general, when I'm against a player who's doing this sort of expand a lot and get a lot of fast units and do all sorts of crazy fast ninja and do that shit, I try to take fewer expansions, play more defensively, and get a big ass huge army that can drill my opponent with one big shot. Some of you are going, really? Is that a good idea? Have I seen that before? Yes. Every Terran vs. Zerg has that exact look. The Zerg has speed Zerglings and Mutalisks darting around everywhere, and the Thors are trying to shoot, and the Marines are, that's the stuff, and they're running over here, apparently ready to punch. They darting all over the place, defending the Zergs, expanding, spreading creep, expanding. And how does Terran attack? With one huge, solid blocking mass. And then that drills right through the Protoss. Or excuse me, right through the Zerg. So White-Ra, I think maybe instead of taking that right base and trying to do 4 crappy bases, could have just stuck with 3, played defensively, gotten carriers, and just drilled right through Expo number 1, drilled right through Expo number 2, and then ended up winning the game. Now, I want to again note, you did hear me say, don't attack where your opponent is strong. The style of push that you can do with that one punch should exploit some weakness. Like, oh, carriers can hit planetary fortresses, and planetary fortresses cannot hit back. And there we go. And then we should have to make sure we have good storms and blinks and all that good jazz. So those are the things that I would like you to think about. Yeah. Parasite01 says, Dear Day 9, you always stress about upgrades and how the pros always get them. However, TLO, aka the little one, only got +1 bioweapons and didn't get any air upgrades, even though he had an air force that makes the U.S. Air Force look like the Salvation Army. So you know what? Let's. So Purpose is actually asking if there's a valid reason, or excuse me, Parasite is actually asking for that. Let's actually poke around. I thought he did get some air upgrades. Just want to double check. Okay, so we got 1 air upgrade and 1 bio upgrade, and no of these ground upgrades. So essentially, same point. WTF upgrades. First thing I would like to note. Yeah, upgrades are really good and important. Get them, damn it. Get your freaking upgrades. But notice how well TLO did that game without any upgrades. Whoa, doesn't that validate the strength of that style of play? You don't even need the upgrades to be able to win that position. Fantastic. Brilliant. Awesome. However, this is such an unusual style, it's entirely likely that TLO just hasn't done it as much and hasn't quite worked in the upgrades. I mean, honestly, when you think something to yourself like, my train of thought got eliminated because I'm getting texted. Go away, Kevin. I actually have to let him in the house, so I gotta wrap up the daily now. Whoops. Oh yeah, anytime you do a new strategy, like if you see someone go Roach Hydra and you've never gone Roach Hydra before, your brain is mainly going to be thinking about building Roaches and building Hydras, less about, well, when do I get my fancy upgrades? Very, very easy thing to have happen. But absolutely, as Parasite01 says, get your damn upgrades and be a pro too. So with that, that's going to wrap up the daily. Definitely go check out Husky Starcraft's cast of this game. He does this game, but of course in his usual exciting fashion, where I did it in my dry, boring, let's learn to be better fashion. So without any further ado, see ya!